Hey, what's up, guys? So it has been one interesting morning. I know recently been doing some videos talking about price changes with radar detectors, right? We've got some detectors where the prices have been going up. Redline 360C up $50. Redenso XP up $50. On the other hand, we've got some other discounts or other detectors that are being discounted. I've done some videos recently talking about Unit and R7 where this was on sale for like 424, like $75 off. This morning, there was a clearance on this for $150 off, and I posted it on Twitter, on Facebook. I know a bunch of you guys picked it up for $349. That's $150 off. So that was really, really interesting. That's been something else this morning. That's actually the lowest price that I've seen. I've seen somebody who saw once like 334 or something, but that's the lowest one that I've seen myself. And besides that, I've been seeing a couple other detectors that have been being discounted recently. It's not just Uniden, like Uniden I saw on Amazon right now, the R4, it's like $10 off. Not a big deal, but there's that one. I'm seeing some Escort ones, like I talked about the Redline 360C going up. A couple of them are on sale. So I saw that right now there's the Max 360 and the 360C, which is like $50 off, as well as the Max Cam 360C. I'm seeing this one discounted for the first time too. This is also $50 off. So now it's Redline's gone up $50, Max Cam has come down $50. And so right now they're actually the same price, which is kind of wild. So this thing adds the dash cam. That's kind of interesting too. And so I'm sitting here like, man, this is kind of wild. You know, we're expecting inflation and supply chain issues and like prices are going up for stuff. But on the other hand, occasionally sometimes I'm seeing some discounts and deals on this, which I honestly wasn't really expecting, you know, and I feel like these days with prices going up on stuff, it's becoming kind of more important maybe and like a luxury almost to find something that's been discounted. And so it's just been kind of surprising to see this. As far as the best places to find this stuff, I found two places. So myself, a lot of times I'm just like regularly checking Amazon and different websites and forums, and you guys message me sometimes when you see stuff. On my website, I've got a page at the very top, a link for the deals page. I put a link to it in the video description. So that's one place where I just kind of compile everything. So all the discounts for like Escort or Redenso or Uniden or whoever's got stuff, dash cams, blend mounts, all that kind of stuff. I put it all in one place. That said, there's times like the one this morning for the R7 that was $150 off. That one was only for like a couple hours. I started getting all the messages and saw it this morning when I was literally just walking the dog and walking my baby who was asleep, you know? And so I just posted it on Facebook real quick, posted it on Twitter. A bunch of you guys did it. And then by the time I got home, finished everything, wanted to do something, boom, deal was over. And so if you want like heads up when that kind of stuff happens, follow me on social media, Facebook, Twitter. That's usually kind of my go-to places to post that stuff. I do have a newsletter, which I send stuff out, but that's more of like updates for big important videos and whatnot. That takes time to kind of craft the newsletter. So those are kind of some of the go-to places that I've been posting it. And it's been kind of interesting, I guess. I've been expecting mostly prices to be kind of staying the same or going up just due to supply chain issues. They can't get inventory, but sometimes we are seeing discounts and sales and stuff. So that's actually been kind of surprising and really cool to see. And so whenever I see that, I'll keep you guys posted on that. Yeah. Now, besides that, last week I had a bunch of videos that I was working on. This week has been pretty slow. I had the 5-Minute Fridays video that I did earlier this week with the blend mount clip for the DS1. Quick heads up, or I guess little update. We actually got COVID again. My son, it was his first week at daycare last week. He's 5 or 6 months, somewhere around there. First week of daycare, boom, he catches COVID. And then unfortunately, my mom catches it, my wife catches it, and our next door neighbor gets it. So my son's better at this point, cold symptoms. My wife had a tough time. She's starting to get better. My mom still struggling with it. Next door neighbor also kind of tough, but I guess we're starting to get better. Somehow I didn't get it, and our toddler didn't get it either. Again, no idea how. You can't really quarantine at home when we're all together, you know? So it's been busy, I guess, and tough. That's why I haven't been posting as many videos this week. It's just been busy with like COVID round 2 in our house. So yeah, so there's that. And so I guess luckily we're all getting better. We're doing okay. But yeah, I've been talking to a bunch of you other guys as well. I know it's just spreading around. I guess it's maybe something we're all going to wind up living with at some point, just endemic instead of a pandemic. But life these days with COVID, right? So yeah. Anyways, with all that said, I guess that's kind of the intro stuff that I wanted to talk about as you guys were all joining. both discount stuff with pricing changes, where to find updates with all that, as well as just kind of a quick update for videos and COVID. With all that, I haven't been as active for obvious reasons on like working with new videos, and it's Friday afternoon. I'm tired, and I didn't want to like get to planning next week's videos quite yet. We're also going to be potty training our toddler next couple days, so also busy. Anyways, with that said, I figure at this point, let's just go ahead, I guess, transition into Q&As. It's a Friday. It's cool. We're all almost done with the week. And so I figure let's just hang out and chat countermeasures. So I see you guys are asking about Unit in R8, about firmware updates, all that kind of stuff. So let's just get to Q&As, I guess. So if you guys have questions, just hop on over to the chat. There's a super chat option that kind of makes it flash on screen. So I know I'm not going to be able to get to everybody's questions. So that's just a quick way. I'll make sure that I get to the ones that are posted that way. So with that said, let's jump into it. So let's see. Kurt bought 2 of the R7s. Awesome. The discounted ones. Can't beat that price. Yeah, that was really good. That was really good. Yeah, congrats to everybody who picked one of those up. Let's see. XD Gamer, can you make a video on how to do the bind the MaxCam 360C to the Drive Smarter app? Yes. So I actually want to do a dedicated video on this, talking about how to have a good experience with the MaxCam. It's basically going to be like connected to Wi-Fi to your phone. Use maybe Drive Smarter for the initial setup and configuration, and then like get rid of the app. Don't use it anymore. Maybe keep it installed, but like use it to get your initial setup stuff, get it paired with Wi-Fi, and then pretty much stop using the app. I'm hoping that Escort does an update to the Drive Smarter app to improve it, and then you'll be able to use it in practice. But if they don't between now and whenever I do the video, I'll definitely do a video to kind of just talk about how to get it set up, and it'll be a step-by-step on how to do all the Wi-Fi pairing, the Bluetooth connection, all that kind of stuff. Jorge Velasco, cool name. Any firmware updates coming for the R8s? I haven't really heard kind of what's been going on with the R8s. I've asked several times, like on my R8, I've still got an older beta firmware that was not the one that you guys are running. I've got 1.22, 1.24 is the current firmware one. And even for us, we haven't been able to get the current public firmware. So Uniden, they still haven't published the R8 firmware. They still haven't even published the current firmware for the R4. So if you plug it in to the update software, it's like, I don't know what's going on. So I'm hoping that they get updated firmware for the R4 and the R8 posted, even if it's the current one. I'm hoping that like for the R7, they finally release 1.42, the newer R3 firmware that I did a video on recently. They must be busy. I don't know. Maybe they're just focused on the R8 display failure stuff. We're seeing about a 20 to 25% failure rate currently when people are posting their serial numbers on the forums. And so maybe they're focused on that right now. I don't know what the deal is, but firmware update stuff was also long before the R8 stuff. So again, I'm not sure what the story is, but I'm waiting on the updates for that, just like you guys are. Let's see. Mr. Cubano, I have the R7. Keep it or get the R8. The 7 is not picking up laser. The 7 can pick up laser, but I mean, the Unidens traditionally are not very sensitive against laser, but realistically, no detector is going to be good at protecting you against laser. That's what laser jammers are for, or honestly, Waze or something. If you really want good laser protection, get a set of laser jammers. Radar detectors are great for radar, but they're not really all that great for laser, even though, yes, they can technically detect them. So let's see. Chris Williams. This is an interesting question. How can you find out what radar detectors work best in your state? That's a good question. I did a video a couple years ago that was like the best radar detectors for each state, where we kind of prioritized based on the bands that different officers use or where photo radar is in use. That could be an interesting one to maybe do an update on. Without the RDFGS, that's become a little bit tougher. It would be nice to have like a simplified resource to be like, if you live in this state or this part of the state, get something that's optimized for photo radar detection or whatever, but I guess the simplified version of that is thinking about the terrain. So like if you're driving in an area with a lot of curves and hills and trees, like all that stuff will block and absorb the radar signal and cut down on range. You're really going to want something with like really good sensitivity. The R4 is a great choice for that. If not, if you're driving in like flat open terrain, you can get 10 miles of range plus. Something like this might be overkill. You may be fine with the detector that has less sensitivity, right? But still going to be plenty in easier situations. And so your terrain is going to have a big impact. If photo radar is in use in your area, yeah, get something that can detect it well. I don't have it in use in my area, so I usually defer to others to do, the testing for MRCD and GATSO and all that kind of stuff. For my stuff, when I test the MRCD, I just turn it on and I see how many false alerts I get. and then I use those clips to demo what the alerts look like on camera. That's the extent of my photo radar testing. So I usually defer that to like people who have those equipment in their area, and they'll actually go out and do the testing, you know? So yeah, whether you have a Redflex or Gatso or MRCD or MRCT or whatever, like kind of figure out what's in use in your area. I always say just post on the forums, ask on the forums, figure out what's better in your area, and that'll give you much more information as far as maybe which detectors you should start leaning towards. But that would be nice to like figure out how to compile that information and try to do a simple guide on like if you live in this state, maybe take a look at these detectors. If you're in that area, take a look at those detectors. Like that would be a great resource. It just would take a bunch of like research and planning, but that would be kind of how I would approach that. Let's see, XD Gamer, can I use a dash cam on the max cam? And is the radar part good? So the radar detector is actually pretty good. The dash cam is pretty decent. It's not going to be the fanciest ever, but for just something you can pop on the windshield, one mount, one power cable, one device, throw it on the windshield, and you get both. It's pretty decent. If you split them up, yes, you can get a better performing radar detector. You can get a more capable dash cam, but like for something integrated, this is the best integrated one that I've seen. I've tested a number from different manufacturers. This is the best one that I've seen that's actually fully integrated. Let's see. You guys I can see are in the chat all talking about the R7 from Best Buy for the $349. Yeah, that was wild. Let's see. Brad Theron. I've been debating replacing my old Beltronics Escort 920 or Express 925. Wow. Pre-Escort as these different deals come up. R7, R3, Max 360, DS1. All great choices. They're all great choices. Again, it kind of comes down to, do you want arrows? You know, what kind of range do you need? Do you need photo radar detection? Do you really want good auto lockouts? Do you want to pair your detector with your phone? V1's a good option. If not, maybe stick to like the Redenso or Escort or Uniden or something, you know? If you have Wi-Fi in your car, consider an Escort. So all that kind of stuff, like I'm definitely needing to do kind of an updated video on like best radar detectors. That's definitely what I want to do. So like Redline 360C, R8, V1 Gen 2, kind of some main key ones, plus maybe like throw an R7 in there, especially with the price discounts, or like R3 for kind of mid-range stuff. Finding the lower end price point stuff, that's been kind of interesting. The DFR 7 and 9 were like two of my go-to low-end detectors, but those are like $300 if you can even find them now. Just silly. And so now it's like, okay, for $200, what do you get? I don't know, like a unit in DFR 8 or an R1, like good detectors, but they're non-GPS. Like I miss having a good GPS detector for around $200. There aren't any of those right now. So having to figure out like how to just rethink this whole thing because this stuff keeps changing. So Brad Photo. After 4 years of using my mirror tap, it seems like the connection is not so great anymore, especially when hitting a big bump. Have you heard of this happening? Do you mean like the connection in the back of the mirror or the plug into the radar detector? I'm guessing you mean the plug into the back of the mirror. That can happen. The mirror tap has one, like the MTX style of mirror tap has different size connectors, and you can kind of swap them out depending on how big of the holes are in the back of your rearview mirror. And if you have that style, you can consider swapping out the plugs for physically larger connectors. So if the old ones have kind of started to wiggle loose or they don't hold as well anymore, you can try just plugging in one with a little bit fatter connectors, and that may actually hold up better for you. So that's an idea. Or you can just buy like the solid ones without the replaceable connectors that have bigger tips. So you could try that as an option as well. Momo3369, isn't the R3 still kicking around on Amazon for $230? I've been seeing it bounce between like $269 to $299. Sometimes the refurbished ones will be down to $269. I did see it the other day for around $250-ish or so. Every now and then it'll drop down to $230, but that seems to be pretty rare. So yeah, R3 is back up to $299. Yeah, it is. Yep, refurbs, all that. So that's one of the tricky things, because sometimes you look on Amazon, you're like, wow, that's a great price, but then you take a look and it's a renewed one. Not that that's bad. I mean, I've got a refurbished R7 here. It's fine. Yeah, I think it's like a 90-day warranty or something instead of the full year and whatever. But as long as they bring it back up to spec and it works fine, great way to save some cash. So I've been thinking about like, actually for the deals page, maybe I can bounce this idea off you guys. Do you think it's a good idea to post like, hey, here's the refurbished detectors and you can save, $30 or $50 or whatever it is. I've got it posted right now for the R7 because the price of the R7 has gone back up. So I posted the refurbished one right now is $399. The full price one new is $479, so $80 more. So for now, I've posted the refurbished one. It's again just an option to like save money, but ideally I would prefer buying new. I don't always do new, depends. But I'm kind of curious if that's something you guys are interested in. Uh, Kurt, yes, in today's market, yeah, that's kind of what I'm leaning towards too. So like, kind of looking for deals when you can. Yeah, yes, that's kind of what I'm thinking too. Refurbished R8s. I'm kind of curious to see when we're going to start getting refurbs on the R8s. Like sometimes we see them pop up on Woot or different websites like that. Amazon, of course, will have them. Sometimes Uniden will sell them directly on their website. But I'm curious to see kind of what's going on with the R8 display failures and what they're going to do with those. Do they swap them out? Do they repair them? All that. So, Quack, interesting question. Why does buying new matter? Sometimes it's nice to buy new and know that nobody else has used it before. Plus, you do get like the full 1 year warranty instead of 90 days. Sometimes I have heard stories of some of the refurbished ones. Sometimes there's like a scratch or something on it. So it may be up to like functional working order, but it may have some cosmetic defects. Again, depending on where you buy it from, and they vary and stuff. Um, if there's like a scratch on the plastic, do they just replace the plastic even if it doesn't impact performance or anything? Maybe, maybe not. So sometimes they get scuffed up. So again, how perfectly new do you want it? Maybe a question if that's important. Consider getting a new one, but a way to save some cash. Let's see, DS1, I paid $299. Awesome. How'd you get a DS1 for $299? I don't think I've seen one of those discounted yet. I think the whole time I've seen that one, it's been $399. But hey, if there's discounts available on that, let me know. I'll be happy to share that too. Vortex, is the Valentine still much heavier than the R7? I like the lightness of the R7. It does have kind of like a magnesium case versus the R7. It's kind of plasticky. I don't have the mount on that one. Maybe let's take the mount off of here to do apples to apples. But V1 Gen 2, Uniden and R7. V1 does feel a little bit heavier. I mean, I've got a scale here, but I don't think I'm going to go fully to that extent. It feels heavier in terms of, I don't know if that makes a big difference, but this does feel better in terms of just maybe the metal, maybe the buttons. Nice and clicky versus the R7. A little bit softer click, not quite the same tactile response. It does feel a little bit more plasticky. Does that impact performance or anything? Not really. Are you going to notice it? Probably not. I don't know how much you'll notice it, but it is a difference, and it is nice if you're going to be paying more for an expensive detector to have that build quality. I've noticed it actually with the Redline 360C. Every time I put it on, I'm like, ooh, this feels good too, So it's nice, but you kind of forget some of that stuff when you just have it mounted on the windshield and all you're doing is like pushing a mute button or something, So Speed Racer, one word, capitalism. That's what's happening to pricing. I'm sure that's an element to it for sure. Jorge, I live in Washington State like you, and I'm using your recommended settings. How is the range in real world practice? My longest detections are a mile, maybe a little bit over a mile. And that's on like I-5 or something down a straightaway or something. You can get maybe a little over a mile. Sometimes over like 520 or I-90, you can get nice detections over the water or something, but I don't get crazy range. It's not like, flat areas in Texas or the open desert in Utah or Nevada or something. You don't get 10 miles of range out here. So especially if you start driving like over the mountains or something, half a mile, quarter mile is like good. So it depends on terrain as always, but that's kind of what I see out here. Let's see. Kevin, are you going to do a review on the Uniden DFR1 or other budget detectors? So I've done some testing and some videos back when they were called like the LRD 450 or 750 and 350 and stuff. The performance was pretty lackluster. I know you can get something like it used to be like the LRD 350 or 450, and now it's the DFR5. I think it's like 80 something dollars. You're gonna get falsing on K-band. You maybe decent Ka-band relative to other detectors in the price range, but if you just need something on Ka-band that's super cheap, that could be an option. Under $100, I typically don't like detectors under $100. I think it's worth spending the money on something like maybe an R3 at minimum, $300. But again, it's $300. I wish there were better options that were cheap, like a R1 or DFR8 or something. That's $200. So I really think it's better. It's worth spending the extra $100 or $200 for a detector, but yeah, that's kind of why I don't focus on those as much. Hey, Brad Photo, thanks for the super chat donation. I appreciate that. Yeah. Let's see. Chad Lee, any word on the future R8 app? Nope, no updates on that either. Hopefully, I know there's Farius is working on his stuff for Highway Radar. He's working on that for the R4 and the R8 to add functionality like he's got for the Redenso DS1 and the V1 Gen 2, but I don't know when that's going to be coming out. Let's see, Quack, Redline 360C versus V1 Gen 2. I've done some videos on that, actually. You can take a look at that. I'm going to be doing some updated ones that also incorporate the R8 now as well. Haven't done that yet, but you can definitely check out my existing videos on that if you want to take a look. Brad Photo, just wanted to thank you. I've been following you since I had the V1 Gen 1 when I contemplated getting the legendary original Redline. Awesome, man, I remember that. Those were the days where I first got started too, and it was like V1 Gen 1, Redline, and Max 2, where those were like the detectors that you would get. And people are like, well, V1, because the arrows, it's awesome. And then they would also throw a Redline on the windshield to get the range, and you do dual detectors with that. Redline has bad filtering. It wasn't as important at the time. We were actually like testing TSR on and off and stuff. But yeah, V1 Gen 1 and Redline, we'd be testing those two. And then some people were like, well, I want a Max 2 because I don't need the crazy range, but I want GPS and auto lockouts built in. That was a thing. Then eventually JBV1, not JBV1. What was it? Yavi1 for the V1. But interesting times. Yeah, that was 2012, 11, 13, that kind of stuff. Thea, a lot of you guys. Thea. So I talked about that at the end of my video that goes over like the current Redenso detectors. They can't get the parts. They've been saying that for a while. They can't get the FPGAs, the Xilinx ones. And I know there's been a bunch of discussion that like AMD's actually bought out Xilinx and how that's going to impact things and whatnot. But yeah, they can't get the FPGAs, and it would be a big, massive undertaking to try and redesign Thea to use a different FPGA for maybe a different manufacturer, a different chip or something. And so, yeah, we're all just still waiting. I have no idea when the thing is going to come out. It could be years from now for all I know. Like, I genuinely don't know. I really want them to come out with it. I know we all do. That's why you guys keep asking too. And so hopefully we come out, but I literally have no idea. So definitely a bummer in that respect. Let's see. D Webtron, love your channel. You released a video the other day about the new TMG laser components. How much better is it compared to before? Is it comparable to an ALP system now? If so, where does it stack up? Great question. So I want to do a video on like updated laser jammers as well. ALP is still better. Better laser jamming capability, better as far as updates, better handling newer guns, better gun acquisition. So firmware updates. You got features like Pro Mode to let you know when the officer's shooting you when he lets off the trigger. If you pick up scatter, I mean, one big thing with the ALP is if you have a head failure or a cable failure, the ALP will actually let you know that a cable is disconnected or that you're having some sort of malfunction. You don't have that capability with the TMG. And so if you have a head failure, you may not actually ever know until it's too late, So there's a lot of little things like that. We generally focus on the performance and the firmware updates and the head sensitivity and stuff. But like, there's a lot of little things that go into this too. I like the TMG as kind of a budget option. I mean, it's like half the price of the ALP, and you're not going to expect the same performance or capabilities or features, right? But you're saving money. And so that's kind of where that comes into. It's like TMG, it's everything is one box, right? So the speaker and the Bluetooth and the brains, like everything is one box, versus ALP, you have a bunch of additional components, which also drives up the price. So, I mean, the TMG, if you're going to be doing like a DIY install, it's just one box, right? So you just throw that somewhere in your dash, whatever. Plug in your heads, plug in power, and there you go. So it makes the install easier. But if you're looking for like a good high-end system, I still recommend the ALP. I've got ALP, Escort, and TMG installed in my car. I run ALP. That's the only one that I actually run. Sometimes I'll run TMG in receive mode so JBV1 can log alerts, or the Escort system, again, in receive mode, so I can post alerts to the cloud to share with other drivers. But for actual jamming, I just run the ALP. So let's see. That's huge to know about the disconnects. Yeah, there's little things like that. And I've been kind of wondering like how to do the video on, best laser jammers, because like we can go into a ton of detail and comparison about this. And some of those little details are actually really important, I think, So there's so many nuances that go into all this kind of stuff when you're doing comparisons. And then it's how do you cover tons of products and not do like an hour-long comparison review? It's just, what do I buy? Give me a 5-minute, 10-minute video, So trying to get all the stuff really quick, but not leave out anything important. It's always a fun balance. So let's see. Yep, guys, still talking about the R7 stuff. Back up. Yes, that deal is dead. It's back up to $500. So the 350 deal from this morning, that deal is dead. D-Webtron, I'm fine with an hour-long video. I was too, but man, that takes so much time to create and edit and put together. And like, I'm trying to get through stuff quicker at this point to try to get through more videos. I mean, I'm so behind on dash cam reviews and stuff. Radar detectors, you guys have been asking, what about R4 versus DS1? What about R8 versus Redline? And I'm like, man, I'm trying with COVID and kids and time consuming and editing. It's like, so I'm trying to figure out how to speed this stuff up because like, it's a lot. It's a lot. Can you recommend companies who look for testers? You mean like you guys want to be a radar detector tester? I've got a video that talks about that in detail. And it's basically like if you want to test, just grab whatever detectors you have and just start doing testing. Test different settings and features. I mean, test different detectors if you have multiple, or just get one detector and try running it against a radar gun in different terrains and situations and with different settings. Like, learn to test. Learn how to conduct a good test, how to test properly, how to present information, how to avoid any common mistakes. Learn how to test. And then as you get tests, you get better. You're like, okay, I'll get more detectors. I'll throw more into the mix. And eventually, if companies are like, hey, what you're doing is really useful and valuable, it's going to be really helpful if I send a detector to you. I know I'm going to get something back in return. If a company can says that, or they'll say that, they'll be much more willing to send you a detector. But keep in mind, just because you get a free detector, it's like, they're expecting something for that in return too. And like, part of testing is you're spending a lot of time testing and looking for issues and seeing what works well and what doesn't, and send that information back. And then you've got custom firmwares that you're dealing with back and forth. It's like, if getting a free detector or a free dash cam is nice, but usually you're putting a lot of work into it, where depending on what your time is worth, usually it's going to be cheaper to just buy the thing flat out and then not have to worry about all the testing and results presentation and all that. Like, it's a lot of work to actually test. If you just take a free detector and never give anything back to the manufacturer, it's not going to last very long. And there's people who do that. And the manufacturer's like, man, I'm out of product. I'm out a couple $1,000s worth of equipment. I'm not getting anything for it. That stinks, So it's a lot. But if you want to test, if you want free stuff, just go test. And then as people see you doing a good job, they'll start to like, hey, can you test my product? Yeah. Brand Theron, out of curiosity, Vortex, are your reviews of older detectors still valid in comparison to new detectors for range? Or have you changed courses or other methodology? Good question. So I've done a lot of my tests at the Red Barn test course. Not that there's anything particularly special about that course. It's just convenient to go back and find a course that I know, and I don't have to keep trying to find a new one every time. I'll just go back to something that's known. And so I've done a lot of testing there. The results are still going to be the same. I mean, the results will vary from one test to another. So you can't take a look at a test 6 months ago and then another one 5 months ago, because I've done a whole video explaining why about that, about radar gun positioning and foliage changes and stuff that changes over time. But anyways, to answer your question, those tests are still valid, 100%. It's nice maybe to have a test done with like older detectors versus a newer detector to see how much of a difference there's been over time in terms of range. Most of the differences are going to be actually false alert filtering more so than range. I mean, you take an original Redline, like, that thing's no slouch. Sure, the newer detectors are going to give you longer range, but really the big differences are BSM filtering, GPS features, Bluetooth connectivity, etc. Like, that's the modern stuff that we're seeing the development in. The older detectors may still have decent range. They may still provide you with plenty of range. If you're in an area where you don't have K-band, don't worry about the false alerts. You shut off K-band, run KA only, you can get by with an older detector, But if you need K-band, that's really where you're going to see the differences. And that's, I think, a lot of times more important than just getting a little more range. James Starling, R3 versus R7, worth the upgrade? I definitely think so. The R3 is smaller. That's nice. But the R7 gets you the arrows, which are a big help in practice. You do get a little bit better sensitivity, wider K-band scanning. So if you've got photo radar detection, that helps. There's other things too, like the firmware. I mean, it's got the 2 K blocks, so better BSM filtering. We're still waiting on the new firmware to be released for the R3 to get you the additional K block for like the 24169-ish range. The main thing is the arrows. Arrows are very helpful in practice. So if you can get an R7 instead of an R3, I would recommend it. I mean, I run arrow list detectors here from time to time, like the R4, but it's really mostly just for testing in videos. Like if I'm running a detector that I actually want, I really want the arrows. Like they're very helpful in practice. Eric Finberg, any idea when Redenso will have an iOS app made? Unfortunately, no, I don't have any updates on that. Redenso and a lot of other companies, but especially Redenso, they've stopped giving information out as far as when things are expected to be released in the future because there's inevitably going to be delays due to bugs, due to issues with getting approval on getting something to the Play Store, or a website guy's he's sick, or it's taken a while to get stuff posted online. Like there's always these weird delays that happen. A lot of times they're just bugs or something and it takes some additional work. And so if they can't release it on their deadline, well, then people are going to be hounding us like, hey, where is it? What's going on? Come on, come on. You said it was going to be out 2 weeks ago. Where is it? And so they're like, we're just not even going to give any deadlines. And when it's available, we'll release it. And if not, it's not. And so it's tough now a lot of times to get information on that. And yeah, it's not like I have a crystal ball here. I mean, I do know some stuff that's coming that I don't talk about. But for the most part, when it comes to new products, either I don't know or I can't say. I'll just leave it at that. So a lot of stuff, I just focus on like currently available information for a variety of reasons. Carl, hey, what's up? I'm the editor of Automoblog here in Detroit. We've expanded into radar detector reviews. I have so much more respect for the work you do. The units are more advanced today and you do great work. Hey, good to have you here, Carl. Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the compliments. And good to see you here as well. I like your Automoblog as well. I check it out online too. So yeah, take a look. Go. Yeah, cool. So yeah, that Car and Driver, Road and Track, all of them, they're fun, but Photo Trend, yeah, there's so many. So I'm glad to see that you guys are expanding into radar detectors as well. I feel like that's a kind of a niche that's not really followed that much. I wish there was more like understanding about it. People always think either like, oh, aren't radar detectors illegal, or those things don't work in the first place. You know, isn't it true that by the time they go off, like the cop already has your speed and you're just like, no. All the time, man, the comments I see on YouTube. So it's cool just to see like additional focus and information being put out on this stuff. So thanks as well for kind of helping share information about radar detectors. Yeah. Andre Guzman, is it worth upgrading to the R8 from an R7? If you can get an R7 for $350 or even $424 the other day, honestly, probably not. I've done a comparison in my R8 review where I talk about R8 versus R7 specifically. R8 gives you a longer range. Yeah, it's got Bluetooth, but there's no app. It's currently got display failures. For me, the biggest differences are the longer range, which is nice. It does have a little bit better false alert filtering, especially with the new auto mode. And then the what's it called? The third one is the front-facing mute button. Those are the differences. But like the R7 still has pretty good range. There are situations where it might be a little bit lacking, and if you really need the longest range possible, that's when you go for like a V1 Gen 2 or an R8 or something that's like crazy long range, you know? $699 or $749, where we're seeing them on Amazon, they're not a good deal. They're not a good bang for the buck. You really get into diminishing returns, you know? So if like you want the highest end, the best of the best, and you're interested in the best, even if you're spending more, that's where you go for the R8. If you're like, hey, you know, I'm cool with the detector that'll get me 80 or 90% of the way there, but cost 50 or 60% of the price, I'm looking for the good bang for the buck. That's where you're going to be looking for something like an R7 or an R3. Those are going to be like a much better bang for the buck in terms of kind of hitting that sweet spot, you know? So that's really where you're going to be finding kind of R7 versus R8. That's how those two would land. Let's see, Florida man, cheapest place to get an R7 right now. I think I looked on Amazon, they're $20 off. If you get a refurbished one, they're $100 off. They're $399. So that could be the way to go. You guys are asking about the Road Scout. Yeah, no to the Road Scout. I've done a video on that one. I'll grab mine real quick since we're going to talk about that. Where's my Road Scout? There it is. Road Scout. So we were talking earlier about like max cam stuff. So like radar detector, dash cam combo. This is $850 on sale right now for $700. This is right now, I think like $400. So about half the price. The radar detector is terrible. It's bad. The dash cam is okay. That's typically what I find in most of these combo units is it's got a pretty decent dash cam. Like it's not that hard to get a decent dash cam. You may not have all the crazy bells and whistles with like voice notifications and parking mode and stuff, but like you can get decent video quality. That's not too hard. But the radar detector in this thing is like it's pretty bad as far as its instant on performance. I mean, it's yeah. I've got a whole video if you want to check it out where I go into a lot more detail. But yeah, that's not one that I recommend. That's definitely better to like just split it and get a good radar detector and a good dash cam. The only one where I like the idea of a combo is the max cam. Let's see. Alvin, Passport 8500 testing with the Spectre. Nope. I have no plans on acquiring another 8500, which has been discontinued for a while. And I don't plan on doing Spectre testing with like old detectors anymore. I do have a couple old detectors from like the 80s or something. They're just sitting in like, I think either that drawer or that one of those two. Got a stack of them, but just time constraints. They've been sitting there for like a year or two collecting dust, and there's just so much to do and so little time that I keep prioritizing like really relevant stuff. And if I ever get to a lull where like I've already covered everything I want to do, which I doubt that'll ever happen, but if I'm ever at that point, like, all right, I'll go bust out some of the old 80s detectors or something, and we'll just do some videos on it. But that's more for fun, you know. Um, let's see. Alvin asking about the 9500IX. That's an M4 as well. That's not a stealth detector, just like the 8500. That's based on the M4 platform. It's detectable. So yeah, they still sell the 9500X, which is kind of surprising. That's like a 10-year-old detector or something, 10 plus. That's not a stealth detector either. So yeah. I always love by the end of these videos, my entire desk is just like full of radar detectors, which is useful. I'm like, let's grab this one, or let's grab this one, or let's grab this one, or let's grab this one, you know? So useful, but it's funny to like clean up at the end of the live streams. Cobra Kai, how do you rate the Redenso DS1, like compared to other detectors? I like it as the best detector under $400. Kind of based loosely on the R3, but longer range, auto lockouts, Bluetooth built in. Like, I think it's nice for what it is. My main concern right now with the DS1 is the default behavior for the K notch in auto mode. It'll just flat out block all signal within the different K block frequency ranges. If you set the detector to custom mode, you then have control to like get alerted to those signals. But you have to switch it to custom mode and know about that. The detector could be physically blocking fully. You know, your Mazdas and Hondas and Acura, so it's going to be quiet, but I think it's a little bit too risky. I would really say if you want to get a DS1, I think it's a great detector. Just switch it from auto mode to custom mode and then set your K block to like mute all signals. There's a weird thing that I've noticed with the DS1 that I haven't seen with the Unidens, and it's the mute weak signal option. For the K block stuff, I typically like the detector to mute weaker signals, but alert me to stronger ones. The idea there is like, hey, I'm muting BSMs, which are usually weaker, but officers with like really strong radar guns, I want to get alerted to those. The thing with the DS1 is it alerts very strongly to some BSMs. Unidens will alert to BSMs as a weak signal. The DS1 will alert to them as a strong signal. And so if you have the K block setting set to mute only weak signals, you're going to see punch throughs of BSMs where the detector will like alert, and then the signal will weaken and it'll get muted. But then the BSM gets stronger and it alerts again and then it mutes. And it gets annoying to like have to keep muting the detector, and the K notch is not working properly. And so for that reason, what I would recommend is if you have the DS1, set it to mute all K-band signals on K notch if you want to use the K notch feature. So yeah, custom mode and mute all BSMs. That's how I would recommend it. Not block them, but mute it so you can at least still see the signals. So just a quick tip on that. That's how I have it. If you take a look at my my DS1 setup guide, I've actually made a change to specifically recommend doing that. But I know that's a little thing. I haven't done like a video dedicated to talking about it. But just a heads up about that too, since we're talking about it. It's like Marcus is saying the same thing about mute all. Yeah. Jay, Uniden and Nerf other Attaway vendors. I hope they don't. Like, we want to see competition in the marketplace, right? So we got to see good stuff coming out of like Redenso, for example. Attaway, they also make stuff for K40. They make stuff for Rocky Mountain Radar. Like, maybe they could do something to Rocky Mountain Radar. I'm not a fan of them lying and scamming to customers. If you make good products, something legitimate, I don't expect perfection, but like make something good and don't lie to people, you know? I'm curious to see like if that's going to do anything with Uniden buying Attaway, if that's going to impact Rocky Mountain Radar sales. I don't know. I mean, I don't run big corporations like that. I have no idea kind of what their thought process is, but kind of curious to see how that's going to all go down, you know? Cobra Kai. I've used the DS1 for a few days and I think it's killer. Really? That's interesting to see you happy here with something other than a Cobra. Plus, Redenso will pay you for your ticket. That's true. They do have the speeding ticket guarantee now. Um, Rocky Mountain Radar does that. Escort does that. K40 does that. There's usually some fine print to that. But yeah, it is nice as like an extra layer of protection, I guess, just in case. Explore Casper. Now we need the R8 to drop to 450. That would be something else. Where did the R7 launch at? Was it like 600, I think? I think it was 599 when it first came out. So now it's what? 359 amazing price. Yeah, so now it's 499, so like $100 off or less. So yeah, some stuff does drop in time. Unitins definitely started to fall in time. Valentine's generally stuck to their price. They don't really do sales. Escorts does do some sales. Yeah. Redenso, typically not. It varies, of course, manufacturers. Tony Prado, I have an Escort IX. Suggestions on what to upgrade to? Sure, let's talk about that. Tell me what you like about the IX and tell me what you don't like. I'm guessing you like stuff like the auto lockouts, maybe the multicolor OLED display. Do you use the Bluetooth? Do you find that helpful with changing settings or the Escort Live stuff? Or are there issues? Do you want longer range or do you want better BSM filter than the IX offers or not those full blast, K-band alerts when it does go off? Like, what do you like about the detector and what do you wish was different? If you tell me that, we can maybe get a little bit better suggestions as far as what's best for you, because tons of detectors that could be better than the IX, but you got to get a little bit more information to dial it in, Explore Casper, 30% failure. I'm seeing 20 to 25% failures so far on the R8 on RDF. Any word on if they have it resolved? Not yet. I haven't heard anything. I'm really hopeful that they get this resolved soon. I do know that as soon as they started seeing display failures, they were immediately wanting to get some of those initial units and get them in for service so that the engineers could do their analysis and fix the issue, but I don't know kind of the status on that. And I'm sure that once they have something helpful and concrete to share, they'll let us know. But for the time being, I guess they're still working on it. Maybe they know what the issue is. Maybe they're trying to implement a fix. Maybe they're talking to the supplier to implement these fix. I don't know if they're going to do a recall. I have no idea kind of what the process is. So we're all just kind of sitting here waiting and speculating in the meantime, Car Spear. I got flashed to the red light camera an hour ago. My first ticket in 8 years, probably. Did you run the red light or did you run the line? And the reason I ask is I've seen some red light cameras which if you approach really fast and then stop really quickly, it thinks you're going to run the red light, but you stop before you run the intersection, and so you don't actually get a ticket. So you have the initial flash, but the second one doesn't actually flash when you run through the intersection. So just because it flashes doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get a ticket. You may. I have no idea. You may, but yeah. I'm also curious if you were running a radar detector or Waze or anything. Did you have something with red light camera alerts or? Yeah, I ran it on a yellow very slowly. Good point. Yeah, depending on how they have the timing set up, they may send you a ticket or not. So I guess we'll see in the next couple days or weeks or whatever. Rob's Adventures. I wonder what Whistler's up to. It does look like they have a new detector coming. There was, I think, an FCC release of some new information on their upcoming detector. But we'll see what that's like. I don't really have many details on that. So it looks like they're still working on something. So that's great to see. I'm definitely hoping it's better than the CR97 in terms of both range, false alert filtering, and not getting the K to K band confusion stuff. Anthony, does anyone know if the R7 detects GATSO? I think it does, but it doesn't have a GATSO specific alert. I think it alerts as MRCD if it does detect it. I believe that's the case, but don't quote me on that. Yeah. So I think it does. You may have to play around with the settings and the filtering options to really get the decent amount of performance, DSL Extreme. I like my Redline 360C. Awesome. What do you like about it? Let's see. Attaway best error detector. Okay. Illinois Ruffian. Correct regarding the GATSO showing as MRCD. Yeah. JQWS. Man, it sucks. I missed the sale today. Do you think it'll go on sale again? I have no idea. So that was a Best Buy clearance. It wasn't on Amazon. It wasn't through like BRD. It wasn't through other dealers. Maybe they just had a big influx of inventory. Like I have no idea kind of why they did the sale. But yeah, I mean, it was posted on the forums. I posted it on Facebook. I posted it on Twitter to be like, guys, hey, what's up? I'm literally sitting there like pushing my stroller and my dog with one hand and like on my phone with the other, trying to like get this information to share with you guys, you know? So yeah. Let's see. The V1 Gen 2 really benefits from using it with JBV1. Agreed. 100%. Some of you guys have asked about like JBV1 integration with other detectors like the Unit and R8. I did see a post from John Boy saying that he doesn't have plans to integrate JBV1 with the R8. A bit of a bummer. Would be nice, but just a heads up on that. All right, let's see. Irhan, my R7 speaker is messed up after 1 year and 8 months, FYI. Have to replace the speaker now. I have heard speaker failures with a number of different unit detectors. Some R3s. I think hear it more on the R3s than the R7s, but it can happen on the R7 too. I know there was an issue with Redlines back in the day. If you ran it at like 100% volume, you could actually replace the speaker. I did a video back in my early days of YouTube of how to replace a Redline speaker. So it happens. I had one that actually blew out on camera while I was testing. It was screaming full tilt. I was running Twitter radar gun, full tilt alert, and then the speaker died on me. That was kind of funny. But as far as the unit-ins, yeah, I guess it's funny, but not so funny because that's an issue. You need your detector to be able to play alerts, you know? So if that happens, I guess you just have to send it in for repairs. But a bit of a bummer as far as speaker failures. Let's see, firmware update. I would be surprised if a firmware update fixes a speaker issue. It may. I don't know. It's worth a shot before you send it in for an update. But I would guess, without having anything concrete to go by, that it's a hardware issue. The driven wheel. Would love to hear your thoughts on upgrading from the original Escort Redline to either the newer Redline or possibly the R7. That seems to work great, just not sure if the range is there anymore. I think the Redline will start to throw like service required issues if it starts having hardware issues. The performance was really good. I mean, for the longest time, that was the king. If you find yourself needing a longer range than what you're getting with the Redline, yeah, you can upgrade. R3, R7, Redline, V1 Gen 2, MaxCam, whatever. Any of that kind of stuff will give you longer range and definitely better false alert filtering on K-band. So if you're looking for an upgrade, sure. I've done videos talking about V1 Gen 2 versus Redline 360C versus R7. This was before the R8 came out. So you can take a look at those videos if you want. That'll go into a lot more detail as far as, which one to get. Well, can't really get the Redline anymore. Once every like month or two, they'll get maybe some inventory and it sells out within like 2 hours. So you can't really get the Redline anymore. Maybe you can get them used, but people sell them for like $1,500. $1,200 to $1,500 is like the current eBay price, which is ridiculous. So we can get into the nuance of the detectors, but really it may just come down to like get an R7 because you can. And well, they're on sale too. So hey, win-win. But you can watch the videos to compare them, but it may just come down to get the R7 because that's the only one you actually can buy. Irhad, hey, thanks for the super chat donation. I appreciate that. Yeah. Love all you do in your work. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's fun to just sit here and talk shop about countermeasures, about radar detectors, Let's see. Anthony DeAngelo. Been out of the scene for a while, and after stumbling in your videos, I finally upgraded from that 9500IX to an R7. That's a nice upgrade. Congratulations on that. Brian Truenow. Does the Redline 360C pick up radar based on your speed? It can vary the detector sensitivity based on speed if you're running it in auto mode. And you can do low-speed muting, so you can have speed-based alerts, so to speak. If that's what you mean, then yes, it can vary stuff based on speed. Let's see. Gary just joined. Do you plan to revisit the MaxCam after all the firmware updates? Yeah, there hasn't been a firmware update in ages. Whenever they release a firmware update, I would love to do another one on the MaxCam. I've been meaning to do one of like MaxCam versus Redline 360C. That I think would be really interesting just because of the availability issues I mentioned to the Redline, plus Redline going up in price, MaxCam coming down in price. Right now, this is on sale, so they're the same price. And so This, I think, is actually the way to go for the time being, despite the ridiculous dumb issues with the Drive Smarter app. The detector is pretty good, and the dash cam is pretty decent too. And so, good range, better BSM filtering than the Redline. Plus, you get the dash cam built in. I mean, plus it's available and you can actually buy it. So I feel like that's kind of how some of the stuff is coming down. Like we can get into detector A versus B, but sometimes it's just like you buy the one you can buy. So that's kind of funny. Backwards. Hey, what's up? What detector does your wife prefer to run with and why? Something with K-band turned off. She doesn't care much about detectors. She just doesn't want false alerts. And since it's almost exclusively K-band in the area, I got a spare Max 360C, so I threw it in her car. And she's got the ZW5s, and I'm like, okay, I need an escort thing. So I've got a spare Max 360C here. Take that. Cool. And so I just give her that. It's got arrows. I run it without K-band, and the range is good enough. So I just give her that, and it's fine. But she doesn't have huge preferences on stuff. Net radar, awesome deal for K-band, longer range. Yeah, I don't like the display stuff. The sounds, some Bluetooth wonkiness, and I don't like the fact that the alert LED uses the same one for radar and laser, especially with Bluetooth delays. I find that really annoying. But I prefer splitting them. I just find all these weird interface quirks if you do the net radar. But Exhale, looking to purchase my first radar detector. I was looking at the DS1 or the R7. What would you pick? R7? Especially with the sales that we've been getting. If you can get them close to the same price, I mean, yeah, R7. But if you're looking to save some money and you can't grab an R7 on sale, I think the DS1's a great detector too. Plus, it's got the Bluetooth, which the R7 doesn't, so that's nice. But so please release your iOS app for those of us who run iPhones. Luke Reader, Max 360C is very quiet. Yeah, those detectors have been getting quieter now, so they've been getting better with their BSM filtering. I know somebody was asking me about like the Max 360 recently. I haven't run this thing in ages. I had one where like some of the LEDs for the arrows actually went out, so I sent it out for repairs. I still have like some of the buttons that have faded. You can see like the mute button text is kind of faded. And some of the paint's kind of starting to wear off here, but I don't really run that thing anymore. Just so many detectors, I just don't grab that one. Brian, R7 is great, but can't take hard hits. I guess well, you don't typically want detectors falling off your windshield. It happens. It happens to me. It happens, but maybe a good option if you're worried about your detector failing or falling. You can get something like a blend mount so you don't deal with suction cup failures. Or maybe have like a hardwire detector and give it a really strong cable. So if your detector falls, the cable will actually hold the detector and prevent it from falling to the ground. That saved me on multiple occasions. Is a good hardwire cable with a good locking tab. My hardwire cable, after using it a lot, eventually the locking tab failed. And so if the detectors would fall, it wouldn't hold anymore. So I really wanted to get that fixed. Last time I had my car in the shop for upgrades, that was one of the things I had them do. But yeah, wrap the cord over the mirror. It's an option too. Let's see, Cobra Kai, coming back to the Redenso DS1 tricks that we were talking about with custom mode. So I changed the mode to custom, and then under the band setting, I set it to mute all weak signals at 60%. That's all I had to do? No. So go back into band settings, and instead of mute all weak signals, just have it mute all signals. And the idea now is if you come across like a Honda, Acura, GM, Mazda, whatever, it'll still display the alert. The text will be grayed out on screen. And you'll see green text for like K notch or K block or whatever the DS1 calls it. So you'll see it displayed on screen, but it's going to be audibly muted. And this is going to be true for both false alerts and legitimate alerts. You can try the mute weak option just for kicks, and you'll see that sometimes you come across a BSM and like the signal will get strong sometimes, and it'll get weak, and it'll actually punch through the weak filter, which is why I suggest, as we talked about before, running just mute all signals for the time being. And then if you want to reduce K-band sensitivity, by all means, go right ahead. But that's going to be separate from any of the K-notch stuff. Matthew Litwin, hear about any Escort 360 Ci firmware updates? Not in a while. There was one they released a while ago, but I don't think any of us have been able to get the firmware update installed. We would try updating our Maxi i360s, and it would like still show the old firmware version or something. So yeah, that thing. Yeah, Escort seems to really be letting that one just lag behind, you know? I'd love to see MRCD added to that platform or 6-head bridge box for more laser jammer heads. But yeah, I haven't really seen many updates on that one. Backwards. Did you see the video by Whistling Diesel where he put 10 detectors on his Lamborghini? Yeah, he had 10 Max 360Cs. Too bad he didn't run each one on a different KA segment. That could be interesting. I mean, he was running into issues with like all the detectors on the windshield and they would all start falsing each other, which was kind of hilarious actually. Um, but yeah, that was really funny. So E and B, V1 Gen 2 or Redline 360C. Well, you can buy a V1, you can't buy a Redline. I started to get into similar issues I talked about with some of the other detectors. Like we can get into the nuances, and I've done videos on V1 Gen 2 versus Redline 360C, but I guess at this point, my current stance, I would pick Redline. I don't like being dependent on the phone. Even if I have an Android, V1 Gen 2, I'm getting quite a few false alerts on KA band and having to deal with like custom frequencies to knock out some of those false alerts on KA band. I really don't like it. The Redline has some annoyances with the ramp up and stuff, for sure. I would like to see faster responsiveness, especially on KA band, but I am not a fan of KA band falses, and so that's a really big annoyance for me for this one. I like both detectors. I think the Redline annoys me less. I like the integrated blue or GPS, and so if it's up to me, I'm picking the Redline. But again, your mileage may vary. You're going to find people online who are like diehard V1 fans. You're going to have people who love the Redline. Welcome to the internet, you know. But that's kind of my stance on this stuff. Explore Casper. Okay, so this is interesting. This is a good clarification. You're good with segmenting the Redline and don't want to have to do with the same with the V1. No, I'm okay with segmenting the V1. Segmenting the V1 does not fix the KA band falses. That's the issue. You can knock out some of the KA falses with the V1 by using segmentation, but some of those KA falses, unfortunately, will happen at like 34.7-ish or something. You can't deal with segmentation to deal with those issues. And so the Redline has its own weirdness with segmenting, and you need to do fewer sweeps and stuff. And I've got more out-of-tune guns, and so I want more sweeps, which slows down performance more. Like, it's got its own issues totally. But I don't have like a solution for the KA band falses with the V1. That's not the same problem with the Redline. So that's kind of my stance on that. So good question, by the way, kind of a clarification on that. Cobra Kai. Okay, so the DS1 stuff, we've been kind of messing with that. Let's see. So K-band notch, set it to mute all, K-band wide, and 100% sensitivity. Great. You can also try, if you don't have a ton of K-band in your area, I usually run DS1 at like 60% K-band or something, just to calm it down a little bit going by shopping centers and stuff. So that's another trick you can do as well. But again, if you're in tough terrain, there's a lot of like instant on K-band in the mountains or something, run at 100% sensitivity. I believe with the DS1, auto mode does not run at 100% sensitivity. It switches between like 50 and 65% sensitivity. And so if you've been happy with the K-band kind of performance and stuff, that's what the detector is actually doing in auto mode. Switches between 50 to 65%. And so you can run around 50 to 60, maybe 70% sensitivity. 100%, you can expect longer range alerts and potentially more false alerts because you're now upping the sensitivity of the detector, and you're going to be getting visual alerts to things that used to be completely blocked in the K-block range. So expect maybe some more false alerts unless you start kind of reducing the K-band sensitivity. Car Spear, doesn't this junk interference also shop up on Leo surveillance equipment? It doesn't. They can run radar guns just fine, even on K-band, without problems from blind spot systems and stuff. Spectres do not have issues with radar guns, which is why an officer can run a radar and they can run a Spectre simultaneously on the windshield. It's not going to be falsing to BSMs and stuff. And so the way their equipment operates is different than our radar detectors operate. Let's see. Instant on usage in the chat. Anthony D'Angelo. Any solution for fake X-band detections on the R7 at traffic lights? Any way to get around it? I'm in New Jersey. Do you use your lockouts by chance? There are some sensors that could transmit X-band, and so you could just use your lockouts, whether they're auto or manual, to deal with those alerts. If you say they're at red lights, they're going to be stationary false alerts, and just block them out, just like you would with like a K-band false or something. So where'd my water go? That would be my solution for that. Maybe I should lower the sensitivity. You can do that too. Usually those X-band guns are typically pretty powerful. I don't have X-band. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm just what I've heard on the forums, you know. So if there's not a ton of X-band or you're getting too much range, you can maybe back down the sensitivity is another way to help quiet it down a little too. Okay, cool. Hey, Godowski's here. Looks like he's in New Jersey. Is it like southern New Jersey where they use X-band or northern? I believe it's only like half the state or something. But I don't. Again, just what I've seen online. You guys know better than I do. Uh, Carl, pretty sure that the stalker guns are the guns most common around here in the Detroit area. Yeah, the stalkers are going to be the most common guns used nationwide. They're nice guns. I love it. My stalker DSR2X. Where is it? I think it's here at my desk. Yeah, it's just literally right here at my desk. I love this thing. This is a. If I had to keep one radar gun, it'd probably be this. Like, good gun. They make good equipment. And I got my DSR2X over there too in the video background. 34/7 gun, also a very capable gun. So if you see a lot of 34/7, that would not surprise me in the least. It's also convenient that we don't really have 34/7 falses for the most part with most detectors. So let's see. I grew up in New Jersey. Northern and southern New Jersey are like entirely different states. Okay, and Godowski. So yes, southern New Jersey only for X-band, and only in towns for the most part, not on the highway. Cool, good to know. This is the kind of stuff that's really good. I see questions all the time of like, hey, I live in Maryland, I live in whatever state. How should I configure my detector? And I'm like, honestly, I don't know. A lot of this is like ask people in the forums, ask people online who live in your area. They can give you guys much better information than kind of things that I've heard online and hopefully have committed some of that to memory. So I wish the RDFGS was back. If any of you guys are comfortable with programming and want to take on a cool project, there used to be a great resource where everybody would contribute like which radar guns and what radar frequencies were in use in different cities and different parts of different states. And that was a fantastic resource where you could be like, hey, I live in Washington, or I'm doing a trip from Washington to California. What guns are in use in those areas? And that was a fantastic resource. It's now deprecated. People haven't been updating that in years. We need somebody to kind of take over and bring that project back to life, essentially. So if anybody has the time and energy and capability of working on that, take a look at the RDFGS or post about it on the forums. That's something that we could really, really benefit from to get all this kind of localized expertise from all over the country, centralized in one location. That would be an amazing resource, but we just need somebody to help kind of take command of that project once again. Let's see. Southern California, best settings for the area. Yeah, that's one thing. Like, I believe there's no, somebody might have mentioned K-band in use, like just I think northwest of LA or something, but for the most part, it's only Ka-band. Yeah. So that's good stuff. Yeah, what guns are in use? Here's one. Yeah, Eric Perkins. Surprisingly, I got hit with K-band in San Diego. I've heard there's a little bit in the Bay Area as well. Like, it seems to be pretty rare. But I have heard a couple reports here and there like this of K-band in use in different parts of California. So having all that information in one place would be really useful. See you, Anthony. Good to see you. Thanks for joining us. And yeah, have a great weekend. Let's see. There's one thing I want to brand there, and a random question. What gun is used in that Liberty Mutual commercial? I think it was like an old custom Falcon or something. I forget off the top of my head, but people posted it on the forums. It's an old radar gun. I think it's a Falcon, but I have to watch the video again, the commercial, to see which one they used. It's funny. There was one, maybe it was a Transformers movie or something where they had like a Stalker 2, and I think they actually faked like with CG the back of the display. Just kind of funny. So it's just fun when you see radar guns. Sometimes they're accurate, sometimes they're fake. What's up, Albus? He's down here on the ground. Want to say hi, buddy? Hey. My dog, he's hanging out here. Usually just likes to hang out at my lap or at my feet or something all day while I'm sitting here working on videos. That you guys can see, like, this is kind of reflective. You can see the door behind me reflecting in there. Sometimes when so I've got my camera right there. I'm usually sitting like right here, right? He likes to sit a lot of times in that chair. And so sometimes with the angle of the camera, you can actually see him reflected in there. And I kind of try to edit the videos in a way to like where you can't see it, but he's white, right? Got white fur. And then that's a dark chair. So a lot of times you'll actually see like him in the background or between shots and clips. If he moves a little bit, you'll see a little bit of movement there. So Probably shouldn't point it out, but sometimes you'll actually see like reflected in these shiny cabinets, you'll see my dog. So just a little Easter egg, I guess, to look into. Let's see. Speaking of stalkers, I wonder why they changed the transmitting lens from off-white to black. I think 9C1 had a post on that years ago on the forums. I don't remember why exactly. There was a reason for that, but yeah, I don't remember either. I'm curious now. Now you've had me curious. Let's see. Jonathan Hayes. Does the DS1 have better range now with the update? I don't think range has changed with any of the updates. I think it's been some of the feature implementation and bug fixes and stuff. But I don't think performance has changed with the updates. Range is identical. Yeah, Explore Casper. Range is identical. Yeah. Jade Lowry. Anyone else been saved from a laser hit with a radar detector? It can happen. Yeah, it can happen. Funny, every time I talk about how it's not a good, reliable way of keeping you protected from laser tickets, there's always people who are like, but I've done it. It saved me. And it's funny. So I always kind of feel like it's like winning the lottery. Like it can happen, but it's statistically pretty rare. It's not something you want to rely on, depend on, but it can happen. Totally can. Jade, it's happened twice for me. Totally. It can happen. Let's see. Carl, the graphics in that article are helpful so you know which gun is hitting you because of the signal. Which article are you talking about? Maybe I missed a previous message in the chat. I know there's, sorry guys, I'm not going to be able to see every single thing flying by in the chat, but yeah. Let's see. Car Spear, I get hit with laser all the time. Man, I wish I did too. I'm happy if I get hit with laser once a year, you know, like I want more encounters. I want more chances to use my countermeasures and videos to share with you guys, you know, but I see radar pretty often, but I don't see all that much laser here, but sounds like you guys do. Man down, I got hit with laser. I wasn't saved. It's just the officer didn't bother even though I was doing 15 over. Epic save. Yeah, sometimes they don't care. It's funny. Fu Yu, is there a good motorcycle radar detector laser detector? Yes. Funny that you ask. Do I have mine here? I think mine's in the closet. Yeah, I think it's in the closet. I don't have it on the shelf, but there is one that Adaptive makes. It's like a waterproof one that's designed specifically for motorcycles, and it's got like big buttons and stuff, so you can use it with gloves. The performance isn't all that great, and it's missing kind of some modern features. I wanted to do some testing. They sent me 2 of them a little while ago. They sent me like a retail one and a beta one. I forget what the changes were. And I meant to grab the public one, and I grabbed the beta one, so my testing was kind of, I had to throw it away. It's called the Adaptive TPX 3.0 or something like that. I think it's like $300-400. I mean, it works for motorcycles, but yeah, like you guys are saying in the chat, most people do prefer something like a V1, or I mean, you can grab like a lot of the detectors now have a headphone jack like this. Like here's the R4, so you can get a much better performing detector. And just plug in your headset, you know, whether you're using Bluetooth or wired in. So like a lot of detectors are going to have headphone jacks. So yeah, here's the V1 Gen 2. It has a headphone jack there. Adaptive TPX, I think the 3.0 or something. What's it called? Is it on Amazon? Adaptive Technology TPX. Yeah, there's the 2.0 I'm seeing on Amazon right now. I think they have the 3.0 as well. I forget what the changes are. I mean, that's not something that I pay a lot of attention to. I don't ride motorcycles. It's not something I can test. I don't review it. You guys ask all the time, but that's not something that I focus on. So there's good threads on RDF on the forums where you'll find where people talk about that stuff. And usually people are going to go for like a much better performing detector and do waterproof cases or something. That's, again, from other motorcycle people, not me. That's usually what people wind up doing. Halors. Is it in the works to review any of the Genevo detectors? Unfortunately not. They don't sell them here in the US. It's an international detector. It's not something that we would use here. And so I focus on American detectors with American firmware to use against American guns. I would love to see somebody who does what I do, you know, testing in different countries across Europe and Australia, New Zealand, and all that kind of stuff. So I would love to see more tests, you know, like really good discussion and explanation and reviews. I have seen some tests here and there. maybe some YouTube videos, but not anything like really good reviews and explanations and comparisons. I would love to see that. So if anybody's watching this and would love to do something similar in different countries, please, by all means, do it and let me know. Cobra Dual Pro 360 is a decent radar detector for $299. It's $450 right now. They do have another sale going on for, I think, $150 off or something. I've got it on my deals page. I'm going to look real quick. There is a discount code. It's not on Amazon. It is on Cobra's website. Let's see, what is it? $150 off. So if you're looking for the Dual Pro 360, it is normally what, $450? You can get it now for $300. So there is, I believe, a coupon code that you need for that one. Just go to the link in the description for deals page. And so that one, if you want, it's like a Max 360. I'll grab that real quick. You want to go outside, buddy? All right, go. Go. All right, here it is. This is actually a pretty decent detector. It doesn't have the performance of the R7 or anything, but Cobra Dual Pro 360, decent range. It's kind of like a mid-tier detector in terms of performance. Bluetooth for Cobra iRadar, which is like an Escort Live clone. Arrows on kind of this little display here. Doesn't have like a dedicated arrow display like you'll have with the Max 360. So this one, arrows right there. This one, the arrows are going to be in the display. It's a decent detector. It does still have the occasional lockup issue that the Max platform detectors have. That's the main downside of it. But for $300, I mean, I really wish you didn't have that stinking lockup issue, a sleeping issue, or whatever that is. I really wish Escort would fix that. They have done some work to kind of address that on some of the detectors, but it does still happen. I saw one guy, I think on YouTube, he's like, I had 3 Max 360Cs and it's still locking up on me like a couple times a week or something. I forget he was saying. Like the issue, I haven't seen it that often. I've got a Max 360C, both in my mom's car and on the wife's car, and I don't think theirs have been sleeping to our knowledge. I don't know if they would tell me. But either way, like it's not something that I see reported a lot on the forums these days. Occasionally people do still talk about that. So for what it's worth, barring that, I like the detector for $300. But again, until they really get the stuff resolved, it's hard to be fully behind recommending it, even though I do run 2 of them. I run it for my mom and for my wife, so yeah. Let's see. Oh, Eric Marks, in an ideal world, maybe something like JBV1 could automatically update the RDFGS. That could be cool, but it doesn't have a good way of differentiating between real alerts and false alerts. I believe you can go into the app and mark if it's real or false, kind of like you used to be able to do with Yavi 1. Maybe John Boy could add something in to where you could easily tag alerts as real or false, and that could then be pulled into an RDFGS-like database or something. That could be cool. But we'd also need a ton of people. Oh, he's against pushing your data out. Okay. Yeah, that's understandable. Sounds like, okay, for privacy reasons, he wants to keep everything on the phone and not share it back out. So totally valid too. I get that. So maybe you could opt in just sharing that information, or I don't know. But an idea for sure. I know there's been some discussion about that, like even shared lockouts with different brands. So like if I drive around here and you drive around there, we have different lockouts. But if maybe you come to the area where I've been driving, you can somehow benefit from my lockouts. There's been interesting discussion on that too, with implementation and frequency differences between different detectors and legal stuff, all sorts of things. But just all sorts of cool ideas. Sometimes it's, for whatever reason, kind of problematic to implement in practice. Phoenix, let's see. How is it that we don't have class actions or regulatory agencies cracking down on Rocky Mountain radar yet? I mean, that's way beyond misleading. That's just outright blatantly false advertising. Yeah, I mean, you can file complaints with the FTC if you like. There's an option on their website where you can submit information, but yeah, I don't know what the story is with all that. I genuinely don't know. I mean, I feel like to some extent there hasn't been a ton of good information, which is part of the reason why I want to do the videos. And I'm going to spend a little bit of time doing some tests and reviews because, like, I want the information to be there so that people don't get scammed and don't get screwed and don't get victimized. And if the information's not available, they don't have good resources that can counter the claims and show them how the detectors actually perform. So yeah, I think it's worth, at least having the information. But as far as like a class action lawsuit or something, I don't know. I mean, it sounds like a scammy project or product to like scramble police radar or something. And maybe government agencies are like, well, if you bought something to scramble radar, which is highly illegal and it doesn't work, stinks for you. Like I don't know the thought process on this and why they haven't gone after them, but yeah, I don't know. I wonder all the time, and I know a lot of you guys ask in the comments and stuff too. Jay Adams, any idea when the Bluetooth will be enabled on the R8? Unfortunately, I don't know. Hopefully sooner rather than later, but I don't know what the story is with the updates for the R8. I'm guessing they're prioritizing fixing the display stuff. But yeah, I don't know. One bad 540i. The only radar allowed in Pennsylvania is K-band. K-band options are a must here. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. Yeah, it stinks. You could really need something with good K-band filtering in that case. Let's see. Jade Lowry. Do any of the stealth coatings work? Unfortunately not. I'm guessing you're asking about like Veil, for example. It's kind of a paint. You apply to your headlights and your grill, and it's supposed to absorb laser guns and prevent reflections from going back to the guns. And so prevent officers from getting your speed, basically, without using jammers. Unfortunately, yeah, some of the older ones used to work. They had issues with like the formula cracking headlights and stuff. And so they started changing the formula, and then it was like really dark, like absurdly, hilariously dark. And so then they started updating the formula again to try to make it more diluted and less black, but it didn't work very well with the new formula in the first place. And then diluting it wouldn't make the performance any better. And so, yeah, it's just, I mean, there's been a bunch of testing with it. Basically, you can like coat the entire front of your car and you're still going to be able to get readings. Even if you could make black holes where your headlights and grill were, the rest of the car can still return reflections, and modern laser guns can even get readings off your hood or wherever else where you're not applying the veil. And so even in a perfect situation where veil did what it was advertised to be able to do, you can still get readings off the car. And so unfortunately, no, I don't recommend it anymore. You can take a look at the test on the forums if you like, but yeah, run Waze if you want a free option. Run laser jammers if you want a paid option that'll actually give you like more protection. Jag42, what's up? Good to see you. Krishna, Vortex, is your R8 having any issues? It's not. So none of us that were beta testing detectors had the display failure issues. I don't know if we got lucky. I don't know if it was a different batch. I don't know if there was a different design. From what we were told, the hardware was identical to what everybody else has. So maybe we were just lucky to not see the issue. And so I don't know why things were different compared to what Uniden had on their end and what we saw in beta versus like, oh my gosh, all of a sudden we're starting to see these failures, in practice. And so, yeah, if that was an issue, man, I would have told you guys about that, just like I talked about it, like when I got my V1, I'm like, hey, we're seeing these issues here with the displays coming off or all the stuff that we were seeing, hopefully it would be something that if there was an issue like that, that would be something that they would correct before launch, because much easier to get that fixed before you launch the detector than deal with all the bad press and first impressions, right? Got to have a good first impression. So I'm sure they would have wanted to address that had they known. Harvey, what's the best installed radar detector? I like the Redenso RCM and the Escort Maxi i360. Neither's perfect. They all have their pros and cons, but those are my two favorite. I do like windshield mounts better, though. You're going to have typically a much better bang for the buck. Newer features, longer range, all that kind of stuff. So I just realized it's 4:30 my time. We've been live streaming here for like an hour and 20 minutes, and I got to go soon. I got to go walk my dog and then pick up my kids. So I probably have to head out here. And so with that said, yeah, thanks everybody for hanging out and chatting here on a Friday afternoon and just relaxing and, yeah, enjoying talking shop and talking about countermeasures. And so that's it for now. I hope you guys all have a great weekend. Yeah, if you don't follow me on social media, I've got links in the video description to where I post updates, as we talked about in the beginning of the video. Whenever there's new discounts or deals or coupon codes, like I'll post stuff up there that's a lot quicker to do. Like I can literally do it while walking my dog, right? Where shooting a video takes a lot more time, edit and post and all. So that's where I post stuff really quick. And then also down in the description, you'll see the link to the deals page, where anytime I see that's where I post all the different discounts and deals for different brands and whatever. So great resources for you guys. And yeah, again, thanks for hanging out and chatting. So it's been fun. Hope you guys all have a great weekend and see y'all later.